So today I am here to review John Company, second edition, right here. Here's the box, the Kickstarter version. So I got this a while ago. Didn't get a chance to review it because of, well, being busy and whatnot and the whole holiday thing. And I wanted to actually get a few plays of this in because it is a pretty complex game that you really need to, get multiple playthroughs to see how it is. In John Company second edition, you're playing as a family who are involved with the East India Trading Company, or John Company, and you're trying to get like the most VP through power and prestige. This is a fairly complex game. Okay, it's not fairly complex. This is quite the complex game. It can take a while, and there are quite a lot of steps. So with the game, it starts off with, except for the first turn, a retirement phase. You roll to see if anybody in positions retire. 1 or 2 is a success. They don't retire, but that's actually bad. 3 to 4 is like, nothing happens except for some fatigue on them. 5 to 6 means they retire. After they retire, you can spend money to buy them retirement, where you shack them up, basically. It could be in like what kind of manor house or lot or just crappy apartment, and the money that you pay for that, where you put them, ends up being like how many VP you can get. And that's a big part of the game, is getting money and being able to afford really nice fancy retirements for ex-members of the company. After that, we go into the family phase, where you choose an action, so you can allocate people to be writers and send them off to India, which has potential to open up more positions for them in the future in the company. You can put them as officers to join the army, which again opens up possibility for them to be commanders later. You can put them into company shares by paying some money, which is good. It reduces company debt, which is kind of a big thing, and also helps you get the possibility of being the chairman of this company, which is also not necessarily a good thing if the company tanks. Then after that, you go into hiring. So in hiring, if there are any open positions in the company, you go through and hire them. A lot of them are done through the chairman. The chairperson hires these people from various positions or writers. There is a nepotism rule where you cannot hire family members unless everybody agrees. Then you get into negotiation as to who's going to agree, who's not, what can you give them to let you do this. Then after hiring, you get into the chairman phase, and the chairman has to allocate a budget. And the budget is allocated into various departments, such as shipping, trade, and presidents of various parts of India. As well, the chairman has to decide how much debt the company wants to take on. That comes into play later, because debt's bad in a big company, like really bad. You could, again, tank the company with debt. There's a trade office, and that person tries to open up what's called orders, or parts where you can trade in India. There's a head of shipping who can move ships around in India, or they can buy ships. They can buy ships from a shipyard that one of the players owns, or they can rent ships, which are temporary for one round. They're pretty cheap. Or they can buy company ships, which are more expensive. The players don't get anything for that, and they kind of stick around for the rest of the game. Then there's military, and the military can move around troops and officers within the various divisions. When you get into presidencies, they have a choice of military or trade. They can do them in any order. If they do military, you basically try to conquer a region of India, sending in however many regiments you have in that army. As well, you can purchase local alliances by money allocated from that chairman earlier on. And if you succeed, you get quite a bit for the commander of that army, as well as you create another position, a governor of that region, who would act under the president of the region. The president is also responsible for trade. So they would roll a number of dice equal to how much money they want to allocate into that. If they succeed, they get money depending on the number of orders that are open that they would fulfill. The open orders as well are dependent on ships. you cannot fulfill more orders than you have ships to transport goods out. Which, you know, is nice because you get budget and money, which is a big part of the game. After that, you get into things like bonuses. People get paid for all of the things that they've done. Shipyards, workshops get money. You get into a revenue phase where the company has to pay its debts, its money. So the money that you have to pay goes by how much debt they have, how many ships, how many officers are in the military, how many regiments are in the military. Hopefully the company stays in the positive. If they go in the negative, they have to take emergency loans. If they cannot take emergency loans, the company's done, the game ends. Goodbye, thanks for coming out, have a nice day, you go on to scoring. If it succeeds and you don't go under, the chairman has an option of paying dividends to shareholders, people who have shares in the company. If they pay more shares, then the company has expectations. The expectations of the company rise, making it a little bit, a little bit more harder the next turn with the game. Then there are events in India. There's a dice you roll, a d6. It tells you how many events you draw, and storms. So there could be storms in various regions of the country. If there is a storm in a region where there are ships, each ship has to roll a dice. On a 6, that ship is destroyed, goes back to the shipyard. If it's owned by a player, if not, if it's a company ship or a temp ship, it's gone. A 3 or a 4 fatigues the ship, they flip over. If they're fatigued again, they're gone. A 1 or a 2, the ship is absolutely fine. Then with the events that happen in India, it could be a really bad one would be like wars that happen there. So it could be an empire that's trying to expand, foreign invasion. It could be a rebellion against another empire. They're actually pretty rough, pretty hard. Like one time we played it, we had sent in the military and taken a region, created a governorship, exhausted all the military to take that area. Then on the events in India, it came up that that region was invaded by pretty much the empire, the Mughal empire that was next to it. They took it out. The governor was ousted. It was just this big political mess too. It was actually kind of funny where somebody was governor for like, I don't know, a week or two. And they were just like wiped off the board there. We lost everything. And all of the open orders are closed. It's shut down. You can't trade with them anymore. After that, you get into the prime minister stage where you vote parliament. So one player is the prime minister, which is chosen during setup through random cards. That player pulls a card from the laws. They can pull up to 3 cards. However, if they pull a crisis card, they have to present that crisis for everybody to vote on. Crises are bad. One of the crises that came up when we played when I was actually prime minister was a famine in India. So if it passed, everybody had to pay a double tax on shipping. So everybody who had shipyards had to pay double tax on that. If it failed, everybody had to pay a single tax on shipyards, but there was turmoil in India. So like everything the company controlled was like really close to rebelling and had some problems there. Other things that can come up are things that could like benefit the company, such as money that writers would get in India would actually go directly to the company. And with this, here's where negotiation comes in. If the prime minister passes a law, they get a pass law token, which counts towards their power at the end, which adds to their VP. If the government fails, the prime minister is ousted and somebody else would take the prime minister role, the person with the most votes against them, the official opposition. So lots of negotiation here. Then after that, you get into upkeep, so you have to pay for all of the retirements that you have. If it is the final turn of the game, then you go on to VP. Or if the company had failed earlier, you go into like VP and scoring as well. Scoring is based on power. There's a power track that shows if it's based off of like how many VPs you would get for something like owning luxuries, shipping, workshops, as well as like prime minister gets power by how many laws they had passed. The current PM gets 2 power. You look at when the game ended and how much power that would actually be worth for you. If the game ends earlier, it's less. If it goes longer, it's more. After all the VP is calculated, then you find the winner of John Company. That's it. It sounds simple. That was a bit of a rambly explanation because this game is very complex. It's one of the more complex games I've played. It's close in complexity to Virgin Queen. To be honest with you, it has so many little things. Luckily, the rule book does explain things fairly well. It's quite procedural, where you go through, each point explained in detail. However, the rule book does not have an index, which makes finding things a bit hard if you don't know where to exactly look for it. That's a bad thing. A good thing, the components are absolutely fantastic. Pax Pamir 2nd Edition was like the game I thought had the best components. This overtakes it, especially if you have the upgraded coins, the metal coins that just are amazing. It's nice to feel the weight of those in your hands. So the component quality of this is just fantastic, wonderful, top notch. Another downside, I sleeve cards. I sleeve everything. The box doesn't fit sleeved cards, which is, again, a bit of a problem. So you kind of have to take them out of the insert, put them in baggies, kind of work around a bit to fit them in there on top of the game board. The game plays 1 to 6 players. I would not go more than 4. Try it with 6, but 6 would kind of bog the game down, I imagine. There is a big negotiation factor in this. It would take a lot of time. Also, the way the game works is that it's quite likely that the 5th or 6th player are going to just get wiped out fairly early. They have no chance of winning, which doesn't make it that much fun for them. And this can be a fairly long game. Like the first game we played over the course of a couple of days because it was learning the rules and whatnot. The second game took us 3 hours with a lower player count. So be very wary of going above 4 players. It would be a great con game or a good all-day game unless you're, just really tank the company in the first or second turn and then it's over. So it does have kind of a variable play time with that if the company survives or if it doesn't. Every time we played, the company did survive, which was actually quite nice. It has 3 scenarios with it. There's a shorter beginner scenario, a little bit longer one, then a really long scenario that's 10 turns if the company survives. There's also a few extras you can add on, like a deregulation, which allows for private firms. We did not do that. That seemed like a bit of a complexity where we were just trying to learn the game the way that it was at first before getting more complex. I wouldn't add that in if you're playing with noobs. That might be a bit much for them to handle unless you are pretty experienced heavy gamers. So with that, John Company 2nd Edition, great game. Bit pricey, but absolutely wonderful, good game if you do heavy, long group negotiating games. And history as well. It's a great historical game. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a happy Christmas, holidays, Saturnalia, whatever you celebrate. It's your business, man. Enjoy it. Take care, okay? Later. Bye.